Here we go. So we'll give it a couple of seconds just for people to get the notification and hopefully tune in.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, where do we see who's watching?
So if I'm being honest, I've not figured that part out yet. So I normally have a colleague or a friend of mine who keeps an eye on it as we tune in. What we do have is a comment section. So as people are leaving comments, as they're tuning in, if they want to ask questions, they'll come up on here and then we can actually bring them onto the screen. So that will be an indication to who's tuned in or who's not. But I guess, look, let's jump into it. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you all back to another episode of Preparing the Unprepared. I've been running this series for give or take 4 or 5 months now. And the aim of the series is ultimately to try and help people make smarter career and hiring decisions by leveraging the knowledge that I've personally got in the HR, talent acquisition, recruitment space with people from my network who are typically experts in data science, machine learning, natural language processing. We've covered some really interesting topics today, and I'm kind of doing a lot of this on the fly, figuring out what people want to hear. And I had a conversation recently with a gentleman named Alexander Lawson, who's the director of data science at Westcreek. He's with us today. And I was really impressed by his background. So here he is on the show today. Well, welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate that. So hi, everybody. I hope that you're doing fantastic today. Look forward to diving into how you can fast track your data science career and grow your data science career. A little bit of background on myself and Westcreek. So I've been with Westcreek about 3 years now. We're a point of sale startup based out of Richmond, Virginia. We've experienced fantastic growth over the last 3 years while I've been here, about 10x growth in the last 3 years, which is just phenomenal. And we're growing and expanding the data science team. And that's given me an opportunity to learn and grow in ways that when I joined Westcreek, I didn't expect to. So it's phenomenal. At Westcreek, we've got a team of 4 data scientists all the way from senior level down to associate level. We're looking to expand the team to 6 to 8 by middle of next year and hopefully 10 by the end of next year. So really excited to talk to everybody about what we're doing at Westcreek, what I've done, and where we're going.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, we're going to be, as Alex mentioned, we're going to be covering fast tracking data science leaders. I see a lot of talent in the space, and I'm very interested to know how you can do that effectively. So we're going to cover a few different topics. We're going to talk about how Alex kind of took his journey from university to becoming a data science leader, the best practices to evaluate and elevate your data careers. We're going to talk about individual contributors versus leadership type roles, what's important in both of those positions to be good at both. Some of the exciting things that Westcreek are actually tackling at the moment. And then we're going to be hopefully covering some advice that Alex can give us to any aspiring future data science leaders. So Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey from kind of where you was in university to where you are now at Westcreek as Director of Data Science?
Yeah, thank you, Lewis. So my journey actually started back during the 2008-2009 recession. Became very interested in financial markets and modeling financial markets to predict stock prices. I did that all throughout high school for fun, managing a small portfolio of some of my own money. Had some lucky winners in there, which was really exciting. And decided when I was applying for schools that I wanted to study economics and finance. I went to the University of Richmond and graduated in 2017 with a degree in economics, a concentration in finance, and I was one course short of a math minor in my senior year. While at the university, I was given the opportunity to take on a host of new challenges and expand my markets trading. And I actually kickstarted a business there called L Squared Financial, where I help private individuals and advisors automate their trading platforms and automate what they're already doing. I've sold models to Merrill Lynch, sold models to various high net worth individuals, and worked with them to help them achieve their financial goals. After graduation, I wanted to expand that, and I decided I was going to start a hedge fund. I had experience trading commodities, both in my work at the University of Richmond and in my work with Aspen Partners previously. Doing both of those things, I spent 6 months building out a trend following model to predict weekly and daily stock prices on a 5-asset portfolio. Started trying to raise money, was targeting a $5 million investment, fell short of that, sadly. In one of my last rounds of trying to find investment, I met the founders of Westcreek, Boomer Muth and Rob Finnegan. They had just recently raised their Series B, and I was seeking advice from them on how I might raise capital. And at the end of my pitch to them, they said, well, we can't help you raise any capital right now because we're trying to do that. But why don't you come work for us and show us what you've got, and we'll see where it takes us. I was in late 2017, and the last 3 years have just been a complete whirlwind. I've helped Westcreek grow significantly from a $30 million company when I joined to a $250, almost $300 million company today. We're looking to continue to grow towards $1 billion over the next 36 months and be one of the first unicorns out of Richmond, Virginia. Westcreek's an Inc. 5000 company in 2019, a top place to work and a wonderful place to be. Some of the skills and developments that I've taken on at Westcreek is what I realized early on is that I didn't know a lot about how to build a credit risk model. I knew how to build models. I had good experience building trend following and quantitative trading models, but risk modeling and binary classification and that method that Westcreek uses was something I hadn't done before. So one of the big kind of core tenets that I have is that you always need to be taking on everything you can and trying to learn and grow, and spending your free time trying to focus on how to develop and cultivate those skills. It'll help you grow and fast track your career from my perspective. The other big thing that I really focus on is how you can always connect the problem you're solving back to the business. A lot of times with young associates, I see that they do a great job of learning the core principles of how to build a model. And then when it comes to connecting it back to the business is where it falls short a lot. So one of the big things I focus on when mentoring my associates is how we can always be ensuring that we're connecting the problem back to the business problem that we're solving, so that we can utilize the solution and ensure that it's a usable solution that impacts the bottom line. We always want to make sure that we're helping achieve our overarching business goals, which at Westcreek, one of the big core tenets is minimizing credit default risk. We're a credit company. We want to make sure that our consumers don't default and that we don't take on too much excess risk. The other third core tenet I've found is that you always want to make sure that you're driving it to the finish. Ray Dalio has said in a number of different ways that if you're not failing, you're not growing. If you're not pushing yourself to the extreme, you're going to achieve unsuccessful results. So I always make sure that I never leave a project uncompleted. And sometimes I might even push myself to have an artificially close deadline, just so that you push yourself all the way to the edge to make sure that you have that intense focus of getting it done.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. I like the fact that when you were telling me about your journey, you had this idea of building your own fund, and the guys down at Westcreek kind of identified your skill set as something that could elevate their business. Very clearly from your progression within the company, they've seen that's impacted your career path. But I'm intrigued to know kind of how they supported you as a business, because there's a lot of companies out there that really don't understand data science. They're unsure how to elevate their data scientists, to keep them motivated, to keep them excited. Like what did Westcreek do to keep you interested, keep you excited, and then consistently challenge you?
Yeah, so I think one of the fantastic things about the challenge at Westcreek is we get to deal with a lot of really interesting problems across all different business lines. So you might tackle a problem one day for our sales organization, such as how to optimize our sales pipeline, utilizing data to predict which leads they should track down, for example, or which leads are going to transform themselves into high value business partners for Westcreek. You might also then be tracking down a problem to minimize credit default risk 2 or 3 weeks later. Then 2 or 3 weeks after that, you might be looking into fraud and how you can analyze fraud using an alternative data source. So one of Westcreek's big initiatives right now is we're launching new products. A big part of that is our initiative to drive into new marketplaces and grow the business outside of our core verticals of furniture, mattress, appliance, and tires. And so to do that, whenever you enter a new marketplace, you have associated fraud risks. You haven't seen how fraud interacts in that. So let's say, for example, we wanted to enter jewelry. We probably won't because it's a very high risk space, but jewelry is a very easily fenceable good. You can buy it, take it from the merchant, steal from Westcreek and resell it at what you bought it for most of the time. So one of the big things if we were to enter that is how can we predict fraud in that instance? Mm-hmm. But other things that might look different is also how credit risk performs in jewelry. Somebody who's our lowest risk customer, which internally we call a 0-0, might perform differently in tires versus in jewelry versus in appliances. Mm-hmm. And how you can interact those things, those different verticals using data that you already have enables you to tackle new problems, and it keeps the job interesting.
Yeah. And have they given you the freedom to actually go out and explore these different areas within credit risk or credit fraud? Or is there like a blueprint that they're saying, okay, this is what we want to approach, and then you kind of got to follow that?
Yeah, so it varies a little bit, Lewis. I have a unique opportunity at Westcreek is that we also get to build on the data science team the deployment engine. And so we actually are the ones who are building everything from end to end, whether it's designing, but also deploying that model. And so we always want to make sure that we're evaluating key opportunities for the business. And of course, our executive team will have ideas that will flow down that we'll need to ensure that we're sizing and focusing on. But Westcreek prides itself on a 360 approach where ideas can flow up and down. And we always want to be collaborating. So one way we do that on the team is I have weekly strategy sessions with my team where we think about and brainstorm new ideas. Then once a month or so, we'll actually pitch 1 or 2 of those ideas to our executive team about what we're looking to do. Of course, we want to always maintain that we're focusing on the overarching business goals. We're improving our core models, focusing on new areas that other teams that we can support are focusing on. But we also want to make sure that we're driving value as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of bringing it back to yourself, Alex, having looked at your career path, you joined Westcreek. If you don't mind me saying, you're still quite young. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to talk to someone like you, and you sound like you've got so much experience. It sounds like you've been leading teams and growing businesses and building things end to end for so many years. But you've kind of been working for Westcreek. They've given you that opportunity to grow. Like, how do you sound so well rounded? Like, where does this? Because normally this kind of experience or the way you're talking comes from like 15 years of experience and having worked at 10 different companies. You seem to have that knowledge and understanding and ability to communicate on a non-technical and a technical level way beyond anyone else that I've seen.
I greatly appreciate that, Lewis. Those are very kind words. I greatly appreciate your thoughts there. Every day I focus on improving myself, whether it's ensuring that I'm focusing on improving what I'm doing in data science and career perspective from model design, better code writing, things along those lines. But also ensuring that I'm focusing on my communication skills, my soft skills, and just trying to build a well-rounded focus. I've had a lot of failures throughout my life over the last probably 10 years. And I've been working not only at Westcreek for 3 years, but, I pitched to hedge funds back in 2013 as a sophomore and freshman in college on why they should invest in cocoa futures for their trend following portfolio based off analysis I was doing out of Ghana. because that was something that I was really interested in. And so those failures there, when those investment theses and those pitches didn't pan out, helped drive a lot of success at Westcreek today. So I know that it might seem like I only have 3 years of experience based off, the fact I graduated in college, but I've been focusing on these long-term goals for 8 to 10 years now.
Yeah, I love that. And you referenced Ray Dalio's mindset or methods. Do you follow the principles?
It's one of the many methods that I try to make sure that I'm keeping in touch with and following. So, I, of course, always put my own spin on something. So what my next post will be about on my blog will actually be how I wake up every day. And I have 3 core goals for that day that I want to focus on. And I always am ensuring that throughout the day that I'm hitting and achieving those 3 core goals. And I found that if every day you're doing that, focusing every day relentlessly on achieving 3 or 4 things, and you do that over 2, 3, 4 years, you'll end up creating an exponential growth effect.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think that's specific to data science either, right? That's something that universally could be used.
Yeah, I think a lot of my focuses on how I've grown my career are not unique to data science. I think they're broadly across principles that I've built and cultivated, of course, relying on the shoulders of giants to grow myself. And in data science, there are, of course, a lot of wonderful skills that you need to cultivate to ensure that you really fast track your career. And I refer back to always ensuring you're connecting a usable solution back to the business. When you can drive true core business impact through your solutions and come up with ideas that actually have an impact on the bottom line, you can showcase a lot of extra value in data science. But that doesn't just happen in data science. You can be in HR and be connecting your solutions always back to the business. You can be in marketing and be always connecting how this little thing today will help grow into a larger event in the future. And so it's all about creating little micro impacts that help grow an overarching goal.
I guess my question is, like, where did you pick that up? Did you need to go and get a business level degree to have that mindset? Because I don't always hear that, but it makes so much sense, right? Referring everything back to the business, understanding what the ROI is on everything that you're doing. Where did you pick that up?
I think I probably picked that up in the fact that in quantitative trading, everything boils down to P&L.
Right.
And so all you care about is your profit above your losses. And you built out and you learn a lot of core tenets. So, Jerry Parker is a wonderful trend follower. He's extremely famous. I've had the opportunity to chat with him a couple of times and listen to him speak. And he always says things like, you want to make sure that you let your winners run and you cut your losers. So, for example, I apply that not just to my asset allocations, but I also apply that to the strategies that I take in my day-to-day life. If something's not working, you want to cut it quickly. You want to make sure you stop doing that. And that can be something as simple as, negative social interactions with a coworker. You want to make sure you cut those out as quickly as possible. To something more broadly, such as cutting bad features out of your model. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm interested to learn a little bit more about the team at Westcreek. So you were the founding member, so to speak.
Yep.
And you've now got up to 4 or 5 data scientists, you said?
We've got 4 data scientists on the team, myself, and then we report up through the head of data science, James Malaw, here at Westcreek. And Jamie is a fantastic data science leader. He's been in credit risk for probably about 18, 19 years now, I think.
Oh, wow.
And he's been a phenomenal mentor of mine to help me grow and cultivate skills and techniques to ensure that you're always building out good practices and design paradigms.
Yeah. Now you obviously had that financial interest from earlier on in your career, if we can say. Do you have anyone on the team that hasn't got a finance background?
That hasn't got a finance background. All of our team members have analytical backgrounds of some kind, but few of them actually have finance backgrounds as their core background. So one of our team members, she worked as a consultant previously. Another one of the team members, he worked as an analyst at a steel company. Another one of our team members was a computer science grad that we hired fresh out of university.
Nice. The reason I ask that is in the recruitment world, I see a lot of quite hard requirements for industry experience. And sometimes there's so many good people that get looked over or missed out on just because in some case, they don't have a financial background or a financial degree. So when it comes to growth, Westcreek are actually hiring right now, right?
We are hiring right now. And especially when we think of our entry-level role at Westcreek is called associate data scientist.
Right.
And that's our entry-level role. We hire fresh out of a master's program or fresh out of an undergrad program. And when we're hiring for that role, there are some hard skills that we look for. For example, we'll look for, do you know Python? That's a big requirement. Our production system's built in Python. You've got to at least know some Python. Do you know some basic SQL? Do you have an analytical mind? Can you solve an optimization problem? Things along those lines. Are you quick on your feet? Can you solve some math problems with, that are pretty basic head math problems that you can solve, instantaneously or nearly instantaneously. Those are some core things that we look for on the hard side. But we also want to make sure that we're always hiring individuals that are really motivated, that take an extreme ownership of the projects that they work on, that are always focusing on how they can be improving and growing. And those skills, those things are things that you can't teach. They're just ingrained in an individual, whether they, from their upbringing or from their education or what have you. It's those focuses on every day I'm going to be better than I was yesterday.
I see in every industry, the people who are the most successful have a passion for what they're doing. You clearly had a passion for this particular industry prior to joining Westcreek. And that's then shown through your progression within the business and the way that you present things. So, that makes a lot of sense that you'd be looking for someone to be motivated in that respect. Now, I'm interested to know, from your journey, having joined Westcreek as an individual contributor, how does that differ to your role now as a leader in data science?
Yeah, fantastic question. So, when I joined Westcreek, there was no team. So it was just me, myself, and I sitting in a room coding our models. And I had support from our leadership team and Rob Finnegan and Boomer Muth, but the company was really, really small at that time. I was the first data scientist. I think my employee number is in the 40s. And we have a large ops component to Westcreek. So the tech team at the time was one person. The data science team was one person. The analytics team was myself, Mark Sperry, who started the same day as me, and Ed Miller, who's a fantastic analytical leader in Richmond. And I encourage everybody to reach out to him as a source of truth. And so as we grew the company, there were opportunities for me to mentor and showcase skills to new associates, to teach them about the business, about how to ensure that they're connecting problems back to the business, but also to teach them other opportunities about how they can build models and analyze things. My first leadership role happened about 18 months ago, 24 months ago. We had an offshore consulting team to offset some of our lack of in-house analytical talent. And I was given the opportunity to be their sole point of contact for risk monitoring, for everything associated to our portfolio health, everything associated to how we think about our portfolio, how we think about credit risk, how we monitor credit risk. They were the ones, of course, building and driving that, but I had the opportunity to drive the strategy there, to focus on ensuring that we drive and build deliverables. And during that time, I was also working as an individual contributor on ensuring our risk models were healthy. And then later building our production system that I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
As my career continued to grow and then COVID hit, we decided to get rid of the offshore team just for cost cutting reasons. We've continued to cultivate and grow an in-house analytical talent now. And so the team was down to one at the start of April, myself and one other associate. And we've now grown to 4 associates and myself. Because Westcreek wants to ensure that we're always focusing and cultivating on a data science talent approach. That growth on the team has again given me those same opportunities I had previously of mentoring and growing people who didn't have familiarity with our business and our offshore consultants and in other team members who had joined along the way, to helping them expand and grow their careers. And if any of them are listening, I think they're going to be fantastic data scientists, and I look forward to seeing them grow.
Love that. How important is it to keep your hands on the code, so to speak, like to keep in the trenches as a data science leader?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lewis. I would say, given the fact that I was the one who wrote all of the code, sometimes it's a little hard from giving something up that you enjoy. Yeah. However, I think it's really important that you ensure that you can distribute your workload to ensure that your team members have ownership of projects so that they can feel like they're having an impact, so that they are having an impact. That's thing one. You always want to make sure that you're distributing the code. The other thing is it gives you then as a leader the opportunity to have more interactions, to think strategically and more broadly. So I mentioned previously that Westcreek is considering entering some new verticals. So I always now make sure that I'm focusing and researching on how competitors are in that space, what competitors are in that space, and how we can ensure that we can provide data science talent to drive that overarching strategy. If I was knee deep in a model build right now, I wouldn't have the time to do and think through those things. So a key important part of being a leader is ensuring that you pass ownership off to others, but also make sure that you can then think strategically about what the entire business needs.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I do see a lot of businesses sometimes that the leaders at the top, the founders, whoever it might be, they kind of just, it's their baby, they keep it close to their chest. They're not necessarily willing to listen to the experts that they've hired. So it sounds like Westcreek did a really good job of empowering yourself, and then you doing the same for the associates that are now in the team to actually make their own decisions as experts.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that we're empowering associates. We're allowing them to take extreme ownership. We're giving them places that they can fail, but fail in good ways. Failure, as I said earlier, it drives more success. So, for example, we have a new associate. They were hired only about 5 weeks ago now. So they're in their 5th or 6th week, and they'll be taking over our data pipeline code. So it's code that I've written previously, and we need to ensure that it's kept up to date, improved, and continue to grow. A core part of ensuring that code works properly is munging and pulling in a lot of different data. Westcreek collects probably 10 or 15,000 data points on each individual applicant. And so those data sets can get really large, really wide. And traditional methods for dealing with that data don't work. You can't just load it all in a CSV and call it a day. You have to, think through how to process and handle that code. And so one of the things we made sure that she had to learn was not only just taking my code, but we gave her an overarching business problem of this is what we want you to do, and gave her a couple of weeks to go and figure out how to effectively rewrite what I'd already written. While that might have, from a lot of people, they might say, well, that's a huge waste of time. It's already written. It gave her an opportunity to learn, to grow into the skill set, so that when she was able to see what I'd already written, she was able to better understand it, better cultivate it, and better incorporate all of those learnings to improving my code.
That's great. That's really good. That's the kind of stuff people are looking for when they're trying to advance their careers. So the fact that you you're willing to invest that time and not see it as a waste of time and as an investment is key to what I think is going to make this team really successful. That's really good.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it. I apologize, but I read a quote or a series of quotes one time where it was along the lines of if you invest in your people, what happens if they leave? And the alternative is what happens if you don't invest in them? And I probably read that 5 or 6 years ago now, the first time, and I see it floating around LinkedIn and blogs occasionally. But it really resonates. You want to always be ensuring that you're investing and growing the people that are on your team in ways that really help them refine their career. So, well, at Westcreek, I've mentioned a lot of things that we do to ensure that we give ownership. But as a leader, you also want to ensure that you're focusing and honing in on what their goals are. Their goals might be to be an expert individual contributor. They want to be, say, a principal data scientist, which at Westcreek would be, the highest level of individual contributor we have. And they're an associate right now. So things that associate might want to ensure that they're doing is researching and cultivating new data science techniques that can incorporate into the business. That associate might also want to ensure they're really honing their coding and development skills to ensure that they can build quick, repeatable pipelines, for example. These type of skills are ensuring that you're realigning what they're working on every day with their goal development and their long-term goals, which helps you invest in them and continue to grow and cultivate their careers.
How do you, when you're advertising, how do you promote that? Like what would be the best way to, in your opinion, to say, look, we are focused on your career and not necessarily on you coming in and solving an immediate problem? Because ultimately the byproduct is that the problem will get solved. But how do you write an effective job description, or how do you promote that effectively as a business to say that that's what we're interested in doing for you as a data scientist who's going to join our organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as for the actually writing it down on paper, I don't think we've done that just quite yet. However, I had a conversation similar to this with a senior at University of Richmond about 2 weeks ago. And he was weighing an opportunity between Westcreek and a larger company here in town. And that larger company is going to have a formalized career development process or boot camp. That larger company is going to have 25 people that you can go and ask questions to, not one. For example. And so when you're looking at a Westcreek opportunity, why would I take that over a larger opportunity, like where I can have more research, for example? And that's really what the core of your question is. And what I told this person, what I told her, is that I will guarantee you that you will get more exposure at Westcreek than you will anywhere else. At no large company will you have the opportunity to have a meeting with the CEO your first week. I ensure that every single one of my associates meets Rob Finnegan and Boomer Muth, two of our core founders, president and CEO, or CEO and president, in their first week. Rob has 30 years in credit risk. He's a phenomenal expert in this space. He's grown multiple companies, including Westcreek, and he's a fantastic leader. When he was at Capital One, where he was for probably about 20 years, he ended up quite high up in the organization there. And an entry-level hire might have had the opportunity to hear Rob speak one time a year. I ensure that you get face-to-face time privately in your first week with Rob Finnegan.
That's awesome. That's a pretty good selling point. And then obviously they get to work with you, Alex. So.
Well, we've got a fantastic team here at Westcreek. It's not just myself, as I've mentioned a couple of names, Ed Miller, James Malaw, Rob, of course, but our CRO and CFO, Raj Rao, if he's listening, he's a fantastic leader in the space. He's been with 3 different startups before coming to Westcreek, and he ensures the team is relentlessly focused. And he's just a fantastic leader in the space as well. So it's not just myself that we have as a fantastic team here. We pride ourselves on building a culture of excellence, on building a place where you can take extreme ownership, on building a place where you can grow really quickly if you're focused on it.
Do you know what? I'm quite excited to see where you guys are in like 4 or 5 years' time, and compared to other businesses who typically see data scientists come into their company within 1.5 years, 2 years leave. I think with the mindset that you guys have got, you're going to actually have really good tenure with the data scientists that join the team. So I'm excited to see where you are in kind of 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah, I'm super excited to where we're going to be in 4 or 5 years. The team, the growth of Westcreek, and I hope that in 5 years, perhaps I'm launching my own company with the help of Rob, Boomer, and others. I've got a passion for entrepreneurship. I've got a passion to grow and scale companies. And I'm excited to look forward to that as potential ventures in the future as well. Awesome.
So quick question about kind of where the business is going. You mentioned that you're exploring some new markets right now. What are some of the exciting things being tackled by your data science team right now at Westcreek?
Yeah, so the big thing that we're doing right now is we'll be launching probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks an entire redesign of our application.
Right.
And so the Westcreek application right now is about just over 3 years old. It hasn't been revamped really at its core in about 3 years, and was very similar to our application we had from 2014 to 2017. We collect today about 5 pages worth of information on an individual applicant to ensure that we can make great decisions on things outside of just your repayment history. Westcreek tries to look beyond who you are at repaying and your traditional FICO score to ensure that we can approve customers who would be otherwise disserviced. And so we get to tackle how we can now collect less information and achieve the same impact on the business in terms of charge-off rate, revenue, and things along those lines with these reduced field sets. And so it's a really interesting problem where you now have less data available to you than before, and you need to see how you can optimize your model to achieve the same results. And it's going to be really hard. It is really hard. It's quite a difficult problem to do. You have to think all the way back to everything that you've done over the last 3 or 4 years and re-question every single action you've taken about how you've built your models to get to today.
Interesting. I think we discussed briefly in the past about the time to a decision when people are making their credit applications. Where is that now at Westcreek?
So once you press go at Westcreek, 95% of our applicants are decisioned in under 10 seconds.
That's insane.
And so that 10 seconds, actually the largest part of it is collecting all of the information that we collect on you. Mm-hmm. That takes about 80 to 90% of the time.
Right.
The rest of it happens in about half a second. And that's everything from scoring our models, deciding what your credit line is, giving you, if you've been declined, adverse action reasons, ensuring that your decision is accurate, and returning it to you as the user.
Yeah.
We've built a really, really fast system for everything beyond the data collection phase. The data collection, sadly, we're reliant on outside parties, and that can only be sped up so fast because we collect about 18 to 20 different data sources across all of our various products we buy. And some of those data vendors are actually data aggregators where they're purchasing data from other data sources on our behalf.
Right. Okay.
And so effectively when they're calling those APIs and then those APIs may be calling APIs, that's where the 7 or 8 seconds comes in.
Sure. And I mean, compared to, let's say, your competitors, is that another area of focus that you'd be looking to improve that time frame? 10 seconds seems quick as is.
Yeah.
Is that an area of focus as well to improve that time to decision?
There certainly is an area of focus to improve that time to decision. We always want to be ensuring that we're improving that. We are in line or ahead of our competitors. I don't know what their exact statistics are on time to a decision.
Okay.
But I do know that some of our competitors still have manual processes. We're fully automated.
Yeah, I like
that. For example, one of our competitors still makes you fill out a paper application.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even know that was still a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've recently moved house, so I've kind of gone through the process of taking out, certain loans for furniture and stuff like that, and it wasn't. I mean, it was somewhat of a simple process, but it wasn't necessarily as successful as I'd like to have been. But I guess I'm new to America, so I just got hit with a huge APR.
Yeah.
But you guys, do you guarantee credit lines, or is it typically geared towards people who struggle to get credit lines? What's the kind of mission of the business?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lewis. So to restate the mission of the business, we're serving underserved markets. So
right.
You yourself might actually be a prime target for Westcreek.
Yeah.
Our core market one for us is internationals who just came to the United States.
All right.
Have any credit. Core market two is young individuals who have never had a credit card or a loan of any kind. This could be an 18-year-old. This could be a 22-year-old fresh grad from college, but it could also be a 27-year-old who now needs something. They paid cash for everything previously.
Mm-hmm.
Core market three for Westcreek is customers who have traditionally struggled with repayment. So they might have defaulted on a credit card or more than one credit card. And they, for example, have a FICO in the 580s, 590s, if you're familiar with the FICO score. And that's core market three. I believe about 15% of our applicants don't even have a FICO score. And so they've never had credit of any time. And traditional financing, like what you went through, perhaps, it doesn't work for those people. That's where Westcreek can come in and help you buy the items that you need to buy. The average American doesn't have $400 to handle an expense. Westcreek comes in and will finance your tires when they go out, or finance your brakes, to buy those essential items that you need to buy to ensure that you can keep living a successful and healthy life. You don't want to be driving on, flat, bare tires or with your brakes messed up. You don't want to be sleeping on a bed that's 13 years old and you wake up every day with back pain. You're like, oh God, I really need a new mattress. And the average mattress nowadays costs $1,200.
It's not cheap.
You can afford a $400 emergency, which the average American can't. How can you afford a $1,200 mattress? Westcreek will help you finance those goods that you need to finance, that you need to have to improve your life. We've heard wonderful stories from our consumers where they've had less than stellar repayment history and their child outgrew their bed and they needed a new bed, and Westcreek helped finance that new bed for them, or their dishwasher went out and Westcreek helped finance a new dishwasher for them. And so these are fantastic customer success stories that we rely on to ensure that we know that we're doing the right thing for our customers. And we want to be the number one point of sale business in the country. That's our long-term goal. We want everybody to say, I'm financing with Westcreek when I need to buy a mattress.
Yeah, I love that. So if your marketing team hasn't worked on the advert for Westcreek yet, I think we've just it's done, right? That was awesome.
I'll send this over to Jim. I'll send this over to Jim Thompson, our head of marketing, and I'm sure he'll appreciate the support.
Absolutely. But I think what's exciting is the fact that not only are you doing super interesting stuff within your data science team, but actually the work you're doing is incredibly meaningful. And I find it super relatable based on the fact that I've just moved from another country and I didn't have a credit score. I guess if I'd have known about Westcreek before, I probably would have used you guys. But moving forward, it's going to be a very viable option for me. But I'm coming back to the kind of data science stuff. I wanted to grab some advice from you before we close this off, Alex. What advice would you give to an aspiring data scientist who is looking to kind of, and that's whether they're, a junior or maybe even someone with 10 years experience, someone that wants to become a leader?
Yeah, so I think the last key point I want to make is always ensuring that you're communicating, you're actively listening, and you're building a culture of collaboration. And so if you're communicating about the roadblocks that you have, about your ideas, about your thoughts, you're actively listening to your team members, to your associates' roadblocks and thoughts, and to your stakeholders' thoughts, their ideas. And you're collaborating and building a collaboration environment all the way from the top of the CEO, all the way down to an associate data scientist or a sales representative. And you're listening and building that culture, it will lead to success 6, 12, 18 months from now and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. What you mentioned earlier about kind of always trying to skill up, always trying to focus and develop your new things, new skills. Are there any particular practices that you would advise an aspiring data scientist to follow? Yeah,
so I think one of the core spots where a lot of aspiring data scientists can improve is their coding skills. And so a lot of boot camps, a lot of master's programs, you might get just a few hours of coding time. And so a big opportunity there, and there are a host of resources for somebody to refine and build those coding skills. And if you continue to build and develop those skills, you can then build out models and learn the techniques for modeling. You can continue to learn. Once you know how to do the things, then you can learn what they're actually doing through mentorship and growth opportunities of those who've done it before in front of you. Of course, there's a million ways to become an expert data scientist. One, I spoke to somebody on Tuesday of this week who their background was in mathematics. And so they had a PhD in mathematics and were a professor before becoming a data scientist. That's an excellent method to becoming a data scientist. And I think there's a theme within the community that you can't have enough math background.
Yep.
That's not the only way to become a data scientist. There's many careers within data today, and not all of them are on the cutting edge of building and designing, CNNs and various neural networks where you need to know all of the various techniques. There's never a harm to understanding that, but always focusing on those skills and building from the ground up will give you the opportunity to cultivate those as well. And there's a lot of ways to get there.
And then I think just adding the fact that soft skills are super important in a market where right now there's so many available talent. To make yourself stand out, it's super important that you're able to actually communicate. So collaboration is key if you're able to communicate. You need those skills as well. So if there's any courses or anything you followed, Alex, or is it just something that come naturally to you?
Lots of trial and error.
Yeah.
Is really the way that I learned that. I didn't go and take a course on, how to collaborate. Or anything like that. But I always wanted to make sure that, to be a good leader, you want to make sure that you're hearing everybody else out first. You want to make sure that everybody's ideas are heard. And then you want to work together towards a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I think we're probably going to see a lot more of Alexander now. He's pledged to start really, I guess, engaging more so on social media. I think it's a really exciting journey to follow Westcreek and his growth within the business and the growth of the business in general. I'm looking forward to seeing some more of your publications and your blogs. Always welcome to come back on the show here as well, Alex.
Wonderful. Well, Lewis, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and I'm really excited to continuing to grow and build a data science brand and help others become expert data scientists. So thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody who's listening. Thank you.
Cheers, Alex. We're going to be coming live every Thursday, as you know, at 11 o'clock. We've got a really exciting conversation that's starting next week that's going to be focused on building elite NLP teams. So thanks for everyone that's tuned in, and I look forward to seeing you next week.